For many women, the loss of a partner is magnified by a long-term fight for basic rights and dignity, with more than 258 million widows around the world left unseen and unsupported by the societies. From armed conflicts, displacement to migration and health crisis, thousands of widows face unique experiences that needs their plight to be brought to the forefront, with their voices leading the way. Widows face deep social and economic challenges, hence the call to action to build resilience and restore dignity through sustainable support systems, empowerment programs, and inclusive policies for widows who face not just grief, but layers of vulnerability, financial exclusion, cultural stigmatization, and emotional isolation. These and more will be a focus on the program Nigeria Today. Thanks for joining us. I'm Eucharia Clinton. Now with me in the studio for the conversation is Dr. Jummai Ahmadu. She's the founder, Helpline Social Support Initiative. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much, Eucharia.
Also with us for this conversation is Memunat Idula. She's a single mothers and child initiative founder. Thank you for joining us on Nigeria Today.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Nigerians.
Now, I will start with you, Dr. Ahmadu. Talk to us. Today we are marking the International Widows Day. What does this mean to you?
Thank you very much. Today is a day for me, a day of sober reflection, a day that people should try as much as possible to reach out to any woman who has lost her husband, a day that we should think about the challenges that they are facing, a day that we should think about what most of them may have gone through during the burial of their spouses, and a day that we should just have general attention towards the plight of widows. That is what this day means to me, and I'm glad that the United Nations deemed it fit to just set this day aside so that widows can be celebrated, because beyond their challenges, it's also good for us to bring them out in a day like this to see how they can be encouraged, for them to know that they are not alone, even though, like I always said, at the initial stage of their husband's demise, people rally around them, but give it 2-3 weeks, give it 2 months, they will not be left alone with their children to just fend for themselves. And some, that is how it's going to be until when, unfortunately, some of them also pass in that harsh circumstances that they found themselves, not out of any fault of this, but nature has made it to happen. So for me, it's a day of sober reflection.
Now, having had that opening remark from Dr. Ahmadu, Memunat, talk to us about, she's mentioned some of them. What are some of these challenges that widows face in Nigeria that you think that should be addressed?
Okay. Just like my co-discussant has just mentioned, the challenges are numerous. They come in social, financial, even social, psychosocial challenges. They suffer all those things. They have stigmatization issues too. They have cultural issues which they suffer. Most widows are looked down on in some societies. Even when their husband die, they go through some rituals, demeaning rituals. You know, sometimes they will even look at them as, oh, you are responsible for your husband's death. So many things are challenges facing widowed women, which I think the celebration of this International Women's Day is not only just to celebrate them, but for us to recognize the challenges that they face and look at what are the solutions that people within the society can provide and what the government can do. If there are other laws, and how to even, put the laws in order and make sure that these laws are being followed. Not just putting laws, but making sure that these women get their rights when their rights are abused. So I think these are some of the things we should be thinking of today as International Day for Widows. We should be looking at how we can protect their rights, health care, care for their children, all those things, even employment, empowerment.
Now, Dr. Awadu, of course, Memunot also mentioned, pointed some of them, but I want you to go in details. What are some of these harmful practices, that widows are, cultural practices that widows have faced, and how do you think that society can rise up and address them?
Thank you very much. 2 years ago, put together a book that we titled Rise from the Ashes. And in writing that book, the kind of stories we heard about what these women went through are things that you never imagined that could happen here in our society, even though we see them every time, because culture is one thing that we'll keep dealing with until enough advocacy are carried out and people realize that we need to shift from what we were seen to be a cultural norm in the past. I'll give you a typical example of one of our widows. She told us that her husband died here in Abuja. She's not from the husband's place. Of course, we have various kind of cultures. So she was asked in her poor state to be the one to be responsible for the burial arrangement of her husband, which means this woman will have to be the one to buy the coffin. She'll be the one to cook the food that they will eat during her husband's burial. And thankfully, her family rallied around her, and that was done. How many women from that particular community will be able to afford what she was asked to do? So this is one of the challenges in terms of culture, that we need serious advocacy. Even the government is doing a lot in terms of advocacy to see how some of these cultures have to be amended, because culture, we know how serious it is our way of life. But some that will make people to lose their value, to make a woman's hair to be scraped, even though one of my senior, well-respected auntie told me that the scraping of the hair aspect, for her, it is a choice, because she tried to explain to me that she did that because she wanted everything to just go. So she had to scrape her head voluntarily. It wasn't culture that made her, nobody forced her to do that. So those are some of the things that we need to be carry out advocacy to differentiate when somebody willingly wants to shave her hair because her husband has died. She wants to, everything that has to do with the man, she just wants to put everything away, which was her own case. And when they are meant to some extreme case, wash the man's body for a woman to drink to make them know that she's innocent, she does not have hand in the death of the husband. Those are what these women go through, and it's very, very bad. So advocacy has to be intensified. Government is already doing a lot to ensure that some of these cultures are, we can't erode them completely, but once it has to do with a widow who just lost her husband, let's focus on the psychological trauma and emotional trauma she's going through at that moment and support her. Once that is done, that will be the foundation that she can build on to get her life back together and build on and see how she can look after her children. If that is not done, you are going to start dealing with psychological trauma. Then it will be so bad again if she is dispossessed of the property that she's supposed to inherit for her children. Because if the man should leave some property and the family comes to dispossess her, and there is no guarantee that they are going to sponsor her children, it's only a woman that can guarantee that she will be able to put herself together, see her children to school, in the case of some young widows that we are seeing these days. But if she's not protected, like my sister said, that in terms of property right, there'll be a problem. So government should look into that. Empowerment, I'm also very happy about what happened yesterday when we had the celebration for them. Thanks to the Honorable Minister of Women Affairs, she came and made some specific pronouncement. And from there, we just said, when compassion meets with policy, it means people will be relieved. She started the Renewed Hope Social Impact Initiative that she's piloting with these widows. They are going to have a registration portal for all of the widows, because that is also lacking in Nigeria. We don't have data of how many widows we have. Even estimated data is okay, because if you have that data, you'll be able to plan. You can also do a baseline survey of what they are good in. Then you now plan on how to empower them. But yesterday, two things happened for us yesterday, and the widows were so happy. They were enrolled into the health insurance scheme, FCT insurance scheme on ground to enroll these widows. And we've seen how widows suffer because they cannot even afford 1,000 naira to take their children to the hospital. I've seen a widow who lost her son in this town because she couldn't afford malaria treatment, and we got to know very late. So just imagine that this woman, if her child is sick, she can go to the hospital. If the treatment is for 10,000, no matter how much, how bad, they should be able to raise some money. At least she has hope that she can go to the hospital and they'll attend to her. That was done yesterday, and FCT is the pilot state. So it means widows in Nigeria should brace up. She said joy is coming, but for us in Abuja, the joy has come already for the widows. So they were so happy, and also she empowered them yesterday. She took note of the skills that these women came with, and they are capable of carrying out. And she also empowered them with some cash money yesterday and charged them to live above their current situation, be empowered, because if you're not empowered, your voice will continually be lost. But if a widow is empowered, her in-laws will also respect her, society will respect her.
And if you're not empowered, you can fall for anything.
You can fall for anything. They will be victim for so many things. Victims. So on the part of government, based on what I witnessed yesterday, there's good news ahead for Nigerian widows.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmadu. Now, Memunat, of course, she mentioned some practices that are very, very dehumanizing. Yeah. You see, apart from the scraping of hair, like the drinking of the cup, the water, the water used in washing the cups and all of that, and even they collect with the cups. Now, and sometimes they will even collect everything that belongs to the man, irrespective of the fact that you have kids for him. They'll correct. So. Now, talking about your own foundation, what is your foundation doing to ensure that some of these things, the women's life, they live a better life beyond the death of their husband?
Yeah, basically, my foundation is about single mothers. And so widows are just like one aspect of
single
that
mothers,
class.
Yes.
Okay, so we've been trying to sensitize. We'll be doing a lot of sensitization programs on TV, on radio, around, for people to know the reason why you should not stigmatize these women. Because losing a partner is already enough sorrow for them. And so when people go around stigmatizing them, because that's one thing we have not mentioned for widows, people also stigmatize them. It's not only just single mothers. Sometimes they look at them and say, oh, she killed her husband. So all sort of negative comments, and mostly it's women.
They feel that I wanted to say that
each other.
Yes, and the fellow women also do that.
Speaking about women, that women should try to have empathy towards other women, because nobody knows what will happen the next day. Nobody knows, and so women should be more compassionate with each other. We talk to the widows too. We are trying to get them means of being trained, how to be empowered to be doing some handworks like weaving, making adire and all those things. And then we also encourage them to try to join hands with each other. I have a platform, I have a WhatsApp group, I'm also on Facebook. I like them to communicate with each other, make new friends, patronize, tell us what you are doing. Let others patronize you, grow your business. You understand? And then I want them to come out and be vocal, because some of them, when these things happen, they just go in and they are depressed. Depression comes in. Sometimes it's affecting the children. So I try to encourage them, speak out. If you have issues, speak out. We've been to even Human Rights Commission. So anybody that abuse them, we can always report. We can always pick up their matter. So let them know that they have a right in the society. And I think this advocacy is very important, because the more we speak about it, the more those who are guilty of stigmatizing them will come to realize that, oh, this thing we are doing is not good. And then for the religious houses, for the churches and the mosque, I know they gather money, they give they give widows, and they can do more. They can preach more about love. Not just giving them money, but also come up with empowerment programs. So that's what we've been doing basically. Okay,
we'll take a short break now. The conversation will continue after the break. Don't go away.
Implementation of the ruling is also dependent on another aspect or another arm of government.
Nowhere in the world will allow under digital economy for banks not to be dispensing domestic currency in that economy.
What will make this one different?
We want to know what they do as occupation. All of these are attributes that our questions have been designed to investigate.
In a few days to come, you see that we are all around their own crannies and everywhere in Nigeria, telling people to cooperate.
Welcome to Nigeria Today. Welcome back. This is still Nigeria Today, and we're looking at empowering widows in Nigeria. Of course, I have two women, two ladies in the studio with me to talk about this issue. Very important issue, I must say, Dr. Ahmadu. I also want you to tell us what your foundation, the Helpline Social Support Initiative, is doing to change the narrative, because we're talking about the way forward here. How do we change the story about, unjust practices meted out on the widows?
The only thing, like I said earlier, is advocacy and empowering these widows to speak out, and also empowering is everybody's responsibility. I see a widow's problem as my problem, as a societal problem, because if a widow is not empowered, it means she's going to raise children that are also not going to be empowered. She will not be able to send her children to school. It means we'll be faced with some young boys who will eventually even take it out on the society, because the children will start from their immediate family that has abandoned their mother, dealt so badly with their mother.
Okay, while you're saying that, I also want you to talk, speak on the issue of, building their confidence, even after being, talked down on, all of these people accusing them of all sorts of things. How do you make them build their confidence? Because Memuna talked about, some people slipping into depression.
Yes.
So what are you doing to?
We have actually dealt with 3 of such cases, and I'm glad one of the woman that was interviewed yesterday, her cluster, because what we do at our own Helpline, we try as much as possible to put them in clusters. Each location we have a cluster of women. They come together, because if you don't share your stories, they said a problem shared is a problem half solved. So we understand that, so put them in clusters all around the city, FCT, Nasarawa, Kogi, and Niger State. We put them in a cluster of 20, but these clusters are beginning to even multiply. Like Buhari now, from one cluster they have 2, and they are still counting. So what they do at this cluster is to come every month. They have a conversations around their businesses, around what is happening to them, their challenges, be it their children's education, whatever they cannot solve within their cycle, they reach out to us, and also reach out to friends where it's beyond us to see how they can assist. So they come together to discuss, and when they discuss, they find solution. And in this cluster also, they try as much as possible to identify the kind of business that can strive. So they either put their monies together to empower themselves in that business and make their money together. They discuss every time. But beyond that, try as much as possible to see that every time we bring them, they must be given a skill, which is why we saw so many happy faces yesterday, because from a widow who could not afford 5,000 last year, she has products that she can sell for up to 50, 100,000. One even says some of our products are now going outside the country, because we also tell them to ensure that their packaging is also very right. There was one time the Monday Secretary Women Affairs, she came for one of our functions. She told them something that till tomorrow, zero is only. She said, package your market and market your package. Okay. She told them that it's not about just producing, learning skill, but how are you packaging what you want to market. So that they held it, and even if they are making liquid soap, they try as much as possible to see how they can make their liquid soap in a way that to be appealed to people to buy. So whatever they are doing it very well. We have some cluster in Gogola that are into ashoke making. So people patronize them. So we have some that are into bags, school bags. They are making them as souvenir bags. So it's empowerment and continued advocacy and deliberate policy from government to just protect the rights of widows. You know, they are under the VAP app. We know that because they are vulnerable. So their rights are protected. But specifically, let's have something that protects a widow.
Okay. Now, Mevuna, talk to us. What message would you have for, you know, traditional rulers in the villages? We're talking about the rural areas because most of these widows, the ones that you see that are maltreated, are usually in the rural areas. It's not like people in the urban areas are not maltreated, but more of them are in the rural areas. And when you see some of these practices, it's carried out in the villages, you know. So what message would you have for some of their leaders there? Because they have a voice. Once the leaders say this shouldn't be done, people respect it.
Thank you very much for talking about this, for coming up with this question. Just like you rightly said, it's so rampant in the rural areas that you find women being abused, I mean, widows being maltreated. And just like you said, some of these things are traditional, they are cultural. You cannot say they should not practice their cultures. But where it's getting to the extreme, I think especially the woman's family should have a way of getting across to the traditional rulers, to the elders in the society. If the husband's family, the late husband's family are going into extreme. I've seen cases. I have a case of somebody that she had gone through so many rituals, and at the point they were telling her to come and take some oaths and all those things like that. And her family, being Christians, they objected. That what the Bible says is the marriage is till death do them part.
Yes.
Now death has separated them. And so the family stood their ground that you cannot subject their sister to all these oaths, because we don't even know what will happen after the oath. She may take some oaths and die, then they will say she was responsible for the husband's death. That's why she died. So the family of the woman too should be able to stand their feet. If their person is being abused, they should get to the traditional rulers and see how they can do the proper thing without abusing the woman and giving her some psychological problem, trauma after that burial.
So, Dr. Ahmad, of course, we will not fail to also talk about widows that are fomenting trouble.
Yeah.
In the village, in other families, you see them causing trouble in other marriages. Please, I want to speak to them so that...
Sometimes it's idleness. Apart from the fact that some people are just inherently wicked, idleness caused it. I know something was said, we didn't emphasize on it much, but we should also talk about it, because the people that are perpetrating this act on these widows are women.
Yes.
So let's start the advocacy from women, telling ourselves, women, it could be in their church gathering, the women fellowship gathering, everywhere. Just let them know that instead of you to be harsh to a woman, because I know if my brother should pass today, God forbid, I'm the person that is mourning, but I'll see the wife as the outsider. So we should start looking at the wife as our sister, who has also lost her husband.
Not an outsider.
That is how they look at them, because there's no way you can explain why a woman will force a woman down to scrape her because she's suspecting her of killing her husband. And there's no time I've ever heard anybody in the family come out, except when the man carried maybe cutlass or physically killed the woman. Nobody has accused a man of killing his wife, but it's always the woman that is killing her husband. How can a woman kill the husband that is her breadwinner, somebody that is supporting her? So it's at times I hardly try to comprehend and understand why that argument should come. So it's advocacy and continued advocacy. That is what we need.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jummai Ahmadu, founder, Helpline Social Support Initiative. Thank you so much for coming on the program, talking about this very important topic. And also Memunat Idula, Single Mothers and Child Initiative founder. Thank you so much for coming on the program. And thank you for being part of the program. I'm Eucharia Clinton. Goodbye.